Big game coverage live from Glendale, Arizona. Powered by AA Best Bail Bonds, Southern Recipe Small Batch Pork Rinds, Texas Cheer, and by 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
We'd like to welcome on the show Andrew Zimmern.
He's not kidding.
He's not kidding. You know him from the Bizarre Foods series, Bizarre Foods America, the Zimmern List, a myriad of other shows on the Travel Channel. One of my personal idols. So it's a pleasure to have you aboard. Let me turn you on. Functioning.
There we go. Great to see you again.
Do you really remember, man? To tell the truth, if you don't,
why would he? Other than the restraining order expired some time ago.
This is just the way it is, right? You come into town, you do Super Bowl, right? Do you still have me?
Yeah, you're good.
You come and do Radio Row. You're doing 20, 30 of these in a row. And you recognize someone. I recognize the brightness in your eyes. Yeah. And then when you said, no, I've interviewed you a whole bunch of times, I'm like, oh, yes, I remember you.
We sat down in Atlanta, and you were getting to work on a food hall. You were just starting to do some stuff a couple of years back, and that has really taken off, hasn't it?
It's open. It's doing great. Chattahoochee Food Works, and it's fantastic. We have I have a controlling interest in the hall and in one of the co-operators of it, but then I have a small hamburger and hot dog booth there that is the pride and joy of my life, called Patty and Frank's. Mostly because I think it's the greatest name for a hot dog hamburger restaurant.
Isn't that the key?
When it comes to naming stuff, TV shows, restaurants, you go through about 100 before you find one that hasn't been trademarked or used somewhere else. I mean, you just can't escape. There's a million clever people. There's a million cute names. Like, every good name is taken. Mm-hmm. And I for a lark, I said, put in Patty and Frank's, and it came up empty. And I was like,
you were shocked.
Gotta be shocked for that no one has opened a hamburger hot dog place called Patty and Frank's. Anyway, it's in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. It's doing great. Go visit.
Well, congratulations on that success. And go ahead.
No, it's just because you have such a wide range of foods that you've tried, and that it's just amazing to me that's the thing that you brought up.
Why hamburgers and hot dogs?
Out of all the things that you've had,
we started this thing, and then COVID kneecapped the entire industry, and it wasn't like I was playing. I didn't know what I was going to do in that booth. Had that not happened, and the economy taken off, and every citizen in America was given $1 million, maybe I would have opened a caviar on a bun booth. Seriously.
No, seriously, yeah.
But you look at the landscape and you say, I want to do something comforting. I want to do something that's priced right. I don't want to serve someone a $30 pastrami sandwich like a lot of places do, or a $25 pizza. That does not mean that I don't enjoy the places that do those things. Right. I do. But from a business standpoint of what do I want to do? I want to serve an $8 or $9 hot dog that curls people's toes, that they turn around and say, well, that was the best hot dog I ever ate. And I just thought it was the right time and the right place to do that. So
you're talking about Americana foods. And when we look at the Super Bowl, it is truly the most American event we have.
Yes,
and
without a doubt.
It has linked with food. It's inextricable. It will not be separated. It's part and parcel to the game. It's even more important.
Well, look, for 100 years, the biggest food day in America was Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. More food was consumed, more food was bought, more people shared food together on Thanksgiving than any other day of the year. About 15 years ago, that was eclipsed by the Super Bowl, and it keeps growing and growing and growing as more people gather together to watch the game, whether it's at home, in a restaurant, in a bar, in some other ticketed experience, right? Mm-hmm. Now you've got, 75,000 people are going to be, maybe more gathered outside of Arrowhead, right, in Kansas City, and outside of, I want to call it Veterans Stadium.
It's the link,
but obviously it's not. I'm 61. It's all the names I grew up with. I still call them.
And they're still the Veterans Stadium, and the Chargers are still in San Diego.
That's right. And the New York Giants just won the Super Bowl. So it's to me, not only is food inextricably linked to it, but it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger because food has gotten bigger and bigger. Football has gotten bigger and bigger. So those things coming together, I think is, number one, it's a massive win. Number two, it's what people want. Number three, if you're going to be sitting down, and I'm one of those people, if I'm not at the game,
Mm-hmm.
I turn on the TV at noon and I watch all of that pregame stuff. So it is like 9 hours of eating. So you have to be prepared.
Adequately trained.
Yeah.
What is the choice of foods that tell us about us? The hamburger, the hot dog, or whatever is come and go. What does it tell us about who we are and where we're going?
Well, I think people celebrate. We were talking before we started this conversation about regional food in America, and having spent time on big sports days, AFC, NFC Championship Sunday being the biggest one for me because I'm the last 19 of the last 20 years I've been at the Super Bowl. It's about celebrating the food that you, your friends, and your family most attached to, right? So, in New Mexico, I went to a matanza where a hog was slaughtered the day before and 15 different pork dishes were made from that pig, right? And homemade tortillas and bizcochito and, a great pozole soup and on and on and on. And you ate all day long as each different dish, became ready, right? Some took a day to cook, some took an hour to cook, but that's what you ate. You go up to New England, right? And it's, lobster boils and clams and, all the things that make New England seafood so fantastic. So I think it's a time where we celebrate our regionality. I live in Minnesota right now. I'm a transplanted New Yorker. And I always put a big soup, usually oyster chowder, by the door. So when people come in, take their coats and shoes off, there's something hot. You put a hot mug of soup in their hands. They're eating right away. I put all the warm things in metal trays by the fireplace so that the hot spinach dip or whatever it is stays hot, right? I mean, there's nothing. Is there anything worse than getting up at the commercial that starts the second quarter and hitting the chili cheese dip and it's ice cold
and it's spackled?
It's awful.
It barely moves.
It's
awful,
awful,
you can't even move
right?
It. It's like stuck together.
Buy a crock pot, Grandma. I mean, it's just like, and I always like to roast a big piece of meat because I find that if I put a slicing knife and a pile of rolls and a whole bunch of, fixins, right? Apostrophe S. No G.
You're talking San Antonio. We got you.
We're Texas.
You then don't have to get up and tend it as much. So that, it's a ham, it's a pork shoulder, it's a turkey, whatever. And that way people could just help themselves. And then everything else that goes around it should be finger food. Warm things by the fireplace, a big roast on the counter along with tons of finger foods, and call it a day.
I got to step my game up. See, normally when you walk in my house, I hand you a shot, and you handed people oyster.
Well, you have to now. Let me be 100% honest about this. The other great thing about living in Minnesota is that it's 5 degrees at game time, which means that the vodka, the cinnamon schnapps, the whatever it is ice cold for those that choose to imbibe.
Sitting outside.
And people come to my house and they're usually a little freaked out because I like to make everyone comfortable. And, I want to make sure no one's drinking and driving, but people come in groups and, let them partake of what they choose to. I don't drink anymore, but I want my guests to feel comfortable. So it's a great day. That's the day you want to settle in. If you like wine, what better day of the year to sit on the couch, eat, and have a nice glass of wine or
are you going to be in the kitchen are you cooking or doing anything this week?
Yeah, this is what has brought me to the Super Bowl and what's attached me to the Super Bowl for the last 21 years has been Taste of the NFL, which is the party with a purpose. That's the Saturday night before the Super Bowl. It was it was founded 31 years ago in Minneapolis during the Super Bowl in January of 1992. It coincidentally is also my sobriety date. And I remember driving by it on my way up to treatment when I landed from New York, threw up out the window because they had the big ice sculpture with lots of lights. And I was going around, one of those, figure eights to get on the right highway in the backseat of a car. And I was not well. So I've always had an affinity for this. And I met the founder, Wayne Kostrowski, wound up going on his board of directors for his nonprofit and then was attached to this. Jen Youth took over Taste of the NFL 2 years ago. an incredible organization that focuses on ending childhood hunger and doing it through programs in schools, both pre-existing and ones that they create, which is a much more targeted approach. And but they've kept the party going. So we have, dozens and dozens of chefs from all over the country, dozens and dozens in the greater Phoenix metro. What do they call it? The Valley?
The Valley
here. It's incredible. So it's the food event of the Super Bowl. It's a sanctioned NFL event, which gives us a little more prestige. And we're able to raise a ton of dough. People can go to tasteofthenfl.com. For the first time, we actually held back some tickets to be sold at the door. You can go online. We have held back tickets that are being released each day, so people can go online and donate. We're one of the highest rated nonprofits in the country, so the vast majority of the dollars goes directly to the fund a need, which is really, really important because, and I think we've talked about this before, hunger in America to me has gone from being first embarrassing, then shameful, then criminal. I think it's now genocidal by definition. We have the skill, we have the money, we have the distribution points. We have everything we need to end hunger in America for adults down to young babies. Yet we don't have the political will to do it. And that's not left or right or red or blue.
Right
it's
or wrong.
About feeding human beings. I ask politicians all the time, are you for keeping children hungry? And it's a very tough question. Yeah, Rudy. It's a very tough question, but I think it really is fair. This is Gen Youth's mission, and I couldn't be prouder to be associated with them. So we have this big party Saturday night. Football players, legends, Hall of Famers, current players. I mean, it's always a blast. Lots of celebrities, lots of activations. Miss America is going to be there. Nice. It's a super fun party with lots of great food, with 2,500, 3,000 of your closest friends.
Andrew, I'm sure you run into this a lot. I'd be scared to cook for you. I don't, because it's like, man, is he gonna like it? Am I gonna embarrass myself? Is he gonna hate it? I'd be nervous.
I get that all the time. I get disinvited for dinner parties, right? Where someone says, "Oh, I'm in town, I'm visiting your friend. Oh, we're going to so and so's for dinner." Then the next thing I know, all of a sudden we're at a restaurant, and I come to find later on it's because someone wouldn't cook for me, and I don't. All I want, neither do I. All I want is a home cooked meal. I don't care if the rice is overdone. I don't care if the chicken is
some
dry.
Of the stuff this guy's eating.
True.
Thank you.
You know how hard it would be to make him mad.
Thank you.
Touche.
I ate fermented walrus anus in Greenland and liked it.
And so you're afraid to give him a ham sandwich?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's
the
thing. Of course, I'm going to like it. And this is. It is funny to have a foot in both worlds, and people have brought this up, especially vis-a-vis some of the more well-known food shows that I've done, where in one segment I'm eating street food, famously in Santiago, donkey milk, fresh from the donkey, unpasteurized with donkey hair floating.
That's a true thing
in it, and I'm drinking the donkey. It was delicious, by the way. And then cut to a scene where I'm in a 3-star Michelin restaurant. It gives people pause, but I'm an equal opportunity eater. I do think that it's like music. Pop music is as valid as symphony. Right? They're both music, and whatever you happen to like. And by the way, some mornings, Sunday morning, driving in the car, I don't like to listen to anything other than like classical music or acoustic. Sunrise is a great show in Minneapolis that I listen to all the time because it's just easy on my ears. It's Sunday morning. It's 5 a.m. Maybe I'm going duck hunting with a friend. So I do that, and then maybe on the way home, I want to listen to something different. It's the same thing with food. Food is food.
By the way, you heard him say he's a hunter and a great shot, by the way.
But thank you. One of my newest shows is on the Outdoor Channel called Wild Game Kitchen. A producer over there at Outdoor Channel sort of cold called me and said, "Hey, I'm a huge fan," and it hit me like a ton of bricks. You go hunting and fishing in almost every episode of Bizarre Foods. I'm like, yeah. They go, is that like a thing or is that a setup? And I'm like, no, I've been doing it since I was like 14 years old. He goes, well, do you want to do a Dump and Stir show
Oh,
on
dump it.
food.
Yeah.
You know, it's a style.
Yeah.
ITK in the kitchen show, Dump and Stir.
Gotcha.
You know, chef behind cutting
Mhm.
board. I mean, he goes by a lot of names. And I said I would love to, but it's got to be wild food, and it's got to be over open fire. And they said, "Oh yeah, we do that." And literally, like it was the easiest sale of all time. 2 weeks later, done. And so people can watch that. I think it's on Saturday and
Mhm.
Sunday nights on the Outdoor
In
Channel.
heavy rotation.
Heavy rotation. But it's a blast. I mean, that is to me the most fun thing that you can do is harvest your own food and feed other people with that. If we have a huge food system problem in this country. If everybody took a meal from a can once a week, right? And, you know, like Soylent or some of these other products that it's just one time with meal in a can, right? And I use that euphemistically to include anything that is spruce that gives you all the health benefits of a meal that comes dosed in a container. Do that once, skip a meal once a week, and take a meal from the wild. We would relieve 1/7 of the pressure on factory farms in America, both meat and big ag. That release of pressure is enough to almost on its own correct some of the flaws in our food system where we're overproducing foods that are unhealthy for us. Now, I'm not saying that's all we do, but that's a really good start, and it sounds really easy to me.
It is.
Great point.
A lot of us could miss a meal or two, right, Rudy?
Yes.
We do it all the time.
I find, and look, I'm not talking about seniors with health issues or
No,
children and stuff like that, but I know that the three of us by accident miss a meal a week. Now we may make up for it on days where we have 5, but we do miss a meal. Like I'm just not hungry. I skip breakfast.
Right.
Next thing I know, I'm eating lunch. Right? I've missed a meal. If we could just drop that out, you know, it's not the hardest thing in the world. This intermittent fasting thing, I'm neither for or against it, but I find it fascinating that there are people who are able to do that. Just don't do it Saturday night. Just don't do it Saturday night.
You're talking to two guys that are doing it. We are doing it. And we find it fascinating that people are able to do that because it's not the easiest thing in the world.
It's crazy to me. But I would like everyone, if you love food and if you believe that that food is not a privilege, sadly in America it has become a class privilege, which is awful. Disproportionately, by the way, affecting people of color, right? I mean, it is, and women and single mothers. I mean, the people, anywhere the public dollar intersects with food, we are underserving that population. That's criminal. Those are the people that need the warm hug that food gives, not me. I'll give up my warm hug that food gives for a while. Give it to someone else who needs it. I'm okay. I'm doing fine. So it becomes a really, really serious problem for me. And it is why I so strongly believe that organizations like Taste of the NFL, go to tasteofthenfl.com, donate, please, please, please. Come to our event, learn more about Gen Youth, help solve the hunger issues in America. And let's start with our most vulnerable citizens, which are children.
Hey, success is measured by what you do for others, not money. So props and congrats to you for fighting this good fight, man. Because we can have all the money in the world, but if we ain't helping anybody with and our voice,
he's good people.
Good people.
He is the warm hug that food gives.
Props to
Andrew
you for that,
Zimmern.
Andrew.
Thanks for stopping by. It's always an honor and a pleasure to really speak to an icon in the industry.
Oh, please. Great to see you. Great to talk to you and keep doing the
We'll do it.
Awesome.
Come down to Texas. I'll take you deer hunting.
Oh, I love that.
Put you in a blind.
I love that.
Next time you're in San Antonio,
I love that.
In fact, you went to a dove farm right off my lease last time you were in town. That's Andrew Zimmern of the Travel Channel stopping by.